is the concept of the atom. And we need, in our next few series of lectures and series of these small little talks, we're going to be starting to think about the atom. So what is the atom? But first of all, if you think about it, if you look around you, where you are now, you are surrounded by stuff or matter. Everything you look at, the table, your desk lamp, your computer, even ourselves, we are all made of matter. So matter is simply the stuff that surrounds us. But we have to think is, what is matter made out of? What is matter made of? Okay, and I think the easiest way to think about what matter is made of is to, first of all, let's take an everyday example of a nice apple. Okay, so here's our nice apple. And if we start dividing that apple, cutting up into smaller and smaller pieces, okay, so we get a knife, we cut the apple, and we keep cutting, and we keep cutting, and we keep cutting, we will come to a point where we cannot cut the apple anymore. We've come to a point in which the apple is indivisible or uncuttable. What in actual fact we've arrived at is an atom of apple. Okay, so that's a kind of everyday idea to help us think about what an atom is. It's the smallest piece of something. The smallest piece of something that can exist but retain the properties of the material that we're cutting up. So in other words, it's the smallest piece of apple that can exist, but still is a piece of apple. And what we need to do is think of that really more in terms of physics and chemistry. As I said earlier, everything around us is made of stuff. It's made of matter. But what we can have a think about is actually that stuff or that matter is predominantly made up of a series of chemicals. Okay, and there are a specified number of chemicals which exist. There's a limited number, and those are all represented in what you commonly see as the periodic table. Okay, so the world is made up of stuff, of matter. That is actually made up of chemicals, and we say there are a certain number of chemicals exist. And that limited number of chemicals we refer to as elements. So, for example, lead is an element that we really certainly need to get to grips with. It's one that's going to be a very common element that we talk about in radiography. It's very important for our protection especially. And if I have a piece of lead, and I start cutting that piece of lead into smaller and smaller pieces, eventually I will come to an atom of lead, the smallest piece of lead that can exist, but it still retains the properties of lead itself.